All right, in this next training, we're going to start diving into websites and funnels. Now, a website and a funnel to the end user will look like the exact same thing. It's a web page. They access it through their web browser. However, on your side, the website terminology and the funnel terminology are going to mean two different things. All right, so I'm going to do my best to explain this in the easiest ways possible that I can explain it. A website is really going to be your brochure pages. It's simple static information, could also contain a blog where you're saying, here's all the stuff about my business, here's how it's going to benefit you. Take a look, take a gander. If you want to get in touch with me, click on the contact tab, fill out a form, call me, drop by my office. It's a brochure page, okay? Now, can a website have an offer on it? 100% it can. However, that's where we start moving into the territory of what we call a funnel. So the funnel, the way we use the word funnel inside of Evolve and in all of our marketing terminology net moving forward for you is a funnel is a targeted specific sales offer or a process that you want to run people through. You see, with the website, when you have 10 different pages on a website, you're not saying, I want you to go from page 1 to page 3, then page 3 to page 5, then page 5 to page 7. You're not doing that. It's just, let me pick out what page that I want to navigate through. But a funnel is, let me put this first page. My goal is to get you to this next page, and then my goal is to get you to this next thing. All right? So these are trackable tasks or actions that you want the person to go through. Okay, so funnels versus websites. They are designed differently. Excuse me, now let me reword that. It's not designed. They are shown differently and configured differently, but the designer itself online is going to be the exact same. So what I'm going to show you is how to design a web page, but the funnel is going to be the exact same designer, but the funnel, we have a different intent. The different intent is, now I need a confirmation page. Now I need a upsell page. Now I need those types of things. All right. So let's go through that over here. All right. So this is going to be under sites and funnels on the left main menu. And again, you can see all of the different submenu items that are here. In particular, there's going to be funnels and then websites. So first, let's go through the websites section. I can create different types of websites. So for example, some of you may be aware of, or some of you may not be aware, you can have multiple domains inside of Evolve. You are not stuck with one domain. You can have an unlimited amount of domains. But the only thing is you can only have one billing profile. All right. So remember when I was configuring the business, or I showed you the invoices and I said, here's the company information. You can only have one of those. So I can have Ace Online, Daniel Chi, Client Conversion Engine. I can have all these different domains on there, but the billing all comes through Parker Management. Okay, so with that, I could create multiple folders. So if I wanted to create this one, let's call Blue Shoes is one of my websites. Okay, I can create that, and then I can create a bunch of series of pages inside of Blue Shoes. Or I can also have a different brand for this main parent company, and it's called Health and Wellness. Okay, let's just say my Blue Shoes are special health shoes, and it's a specific domain that I want to sell, but the rest of it's all health and wellness. Okay, so I could do stuff like this where it's two folders, but then in each folder, I can create my web pages. All right, it's just a categorization methodology for me to do that. So I can go ahead and create a new website, and now I have two different options here. One is I can create sites completely from scratch. Totally okay to do that. However, there's also, you've noticed that many of you are here from the Client Conversion Engine where we had you click and select a specific template. Now it's on the funnels pages, but it's very similar to this style as well, where you can go ahead and pick from all the different templates that are available. So you can completely do this. Now, if you are part of Client Conversion Engine or you have invested in our design team building out stuff for you, we say pick a template and then we'll customize it from there. But if you did not do that, you can go ahead into this section and create a brand new website and move that over to a funnel later on by clicking from the templates. So I'm going to do that right now. And I'm going to preview this guy here, and I think it has 10 or 11 pages. Yeah, I'd like to use this, and I can see me customizing this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on continue, and now it's adding all of the different pages for this website template into this, this health and wellness folder for my websites. Okay, now I'm also going to assume that I have my domain connected, and unfortunately on this sample account I don't have a domain, but I'll explain you verbally how to make sure that that domain is the URL is correct. All right, so okay, so the websites have been created. It's going to take me to the first page. Now I can go ahead and click on back, and it'll go to all of the pages here. All right. So I can see home, about us, testimonials, FAQs, courses, events, blog, contact us, single page, a single course. Now, let me give you a little bit of a tip. Every single one of us here requires several other pages as well. So please write this down. You will also require a privacy policy page. Mandatory. You are also required by law to have a terms of service or terms of use page. Those are your two mandatory pages. However, I'm also going to suggest that you have potentially an acceptable user, an AUP, an acceptable user policy, and what they can and cannot do on your sites. Potentially a cookie policy. All right, and the cookie policy is kind of there as a more specific details as to what you're going to do and not do with the cookies and who has access to those cookies. All right, some countries may require that you have that. So it was the privacy policy, the terms of use, those two are mandatory, or terms of service, right? The acceptable user policy, or AUP. And then the fourth one was your cookies policy. Okay, so the first two are mandatory. The third and the fourth are optional. Now, a lot of people say, whoa, how can I get those done? I'm going to tell you the best way is to hire legal counsel or policy creators for that. Okay, so hiring somebody to do that for your business. Why? Because it's specific to your business. Now, what's the cost? I have no clue, but I'm going to guarantee you it's probably going to be over 1,000 and under 10. Okay. Now, do you have to use that? Hire somebody? No, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything. There are other options where you can go to online services and use policy generators. That might be 100 or so a year, and they'll keep you updated onto, hey, by the way, there's a new policy in the state of Oregon. Or, hey, there's a new policy, like, for example, California, right? Just a few years ago, they introduced the California something Privacy Act, right? CCPA. No, not CCPA. I think that's the bad thing. I can't remember what it is. No, I think it is CCPA, California Consumer Protection Act. So different places around the world are going to require you to have different policies that are applicable to them. However, you only need to include in your privacy policy and your terms of service applicable content related to where your customers or where your visitors are going to be coming in from. Now, Brett and I run a worldwide business. Having said that, we need to make sure that our policies cover all of the required policies for global-based businesses. So not only do we have our privacy policy to cover US, we have our privacy policies to cover specifically the state of California. Not only do we have that, but we also have Canada, right? Not only that, we also have GDPR because we have some customers and people who visit our sites who are from the EU. So the GDPR is required. Not only that, we also have in Australia. Right? So other countries are requiring that if you have any one of our people from our country visiting your website, you better have that privacy policy in place. That's what they're basically saying, right? So we need this even for just our landing page, funnel pages. Yeah, so let's say this is a good question. What you're going to do is you're going to create those pages in the websites section here. So all I have to do is I have to say, okay, which one of these templates is, easy enough for me to copy and duplicate? I think it's this one. Let me click on the preview link. Based on this preview, yeah, 100%. The only thing I'm going to do is delete this right column. All right, so I'm going to go single event, click on the three dots in the top corner. I'm going to hit clone, and I'm going to say add it to this site, and it's going to show up in this little box in about 5 or 10 seconds. So when I do that, now it's going to say single event clone. All right, well, let's change the settings. So we're actually going to call this privacy policy. And the URL for this is going to be /privacy-policy. Hit update page. Okay, then it's going to save that. It's going to create the URL. And then all I have to do is click on edit. So now from the edit side of things, now I'm going to say this is going to be the privacy policy section, but I don't need this right column. Here. I don't need that right column. So, okay, Daniel, how do I get to this? Well, sometimes in your editor, I'm not going to go through exact details just yet on the editor, but I'm going to go through layers, and I know that's on the page, and I know that's, oh, maybe I can do this. Second column. Second row. No, it's not that one. You basically just click around and you'll start to see that things get selected from here. Second column. I think it is this one. There it is. Okay, so now I've got this one big box here. I'm still editing it, so I don't want this image here. Okay, now the reason why this is coming up is because this box is actually on top of this box. So I can still go back here, and then I can say first column image, delete, delete. All right. Now, this is a little bit of a bad design for the template because it's not clickable, so please bear with me here. I can see that the headline I don't like this template. Pretend I don't have that. Okay, so I've got my privacy policy. So I'm going to go over to search, and I'm going to say sample privacy policy. I don't know. I'm just going to grab theirs. All right, so you've got a new privacy policy. All right, here's the privacy policy. Copy, paste, copy, boom, 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 paste, done. You're going to edit your privacy policy, etc., and you're just going to hit save. Now, if I had a domain connected to here, I can hit publish. So if I had evolveapp.io, I can hit publish and then select which domain. So remember I was talking about multiple domains you can have? That's all through the publish section. But because I don't, on this demo account, I do not have a domain selected or configured for this account, I can only hit save, and that's totally okay. If you do have a domain configured for your account and it's already in here, right? It'll say evolveapp.io/privacy. Then I can go ahead and hit save, but it's not going to be public. It's only going to be saved here so that I can go back in here and then publish it later, like if I'm halfway working through it. But once that domain is ready or connected and all of my content is ready, I go ahead and hit publish, and then it's done. And then you'll see that link show up here with the proper URL. If I wanted to preview this page, I can click on that, and then I can see here the privacy policy. All right, now keep in mind when you're in the editor and you preview a page after you hit save or publish, wait 5 to 10 seconds before you either click on this link or before you refresh the page that maybe it's already open, right? So let me get rid of these. So if you go here and you're like, who are we? Oh, I don't want to say who are we. I want to say, who am I, right? Save here, refresh, refresh, refresh. Sometimes this won't make that, this will not reflect the change. That's because this page is cached. Caching is basically a technology on the internet to make sure websites load fast. If it happens, don't go back and say, what's going on? This isn't updating. I hit save again. It does take time. So just come back after a minute or two and then refresh the page, and then it will be updated. Okay. So if it didn't update, even though you hit save or publish here, it's because it's cached on your computer now, and you just have to wait. Okay. Now, when you go back, you can see privacy policy. So the question, Alessia says, do we need to create one page for each policy, or can we put them all together on one page? I'm going to suggest that you create a different page for each policy. Okay, so the reason why is it's easier for that information to be accessible, because in the very, very unlikely event that you are challenged with something on your policies, and let's say some sort of a legal thing occurs, again, 1 in a million chances, okay? But if that ever does happen and your information looks buried, guess who loses? You lose. So what your job is to make everything as apparent as possible. So creating separate pages for your privacy policy, then another one for your terms of service or terms of use. And by the way, terms of service is different from terms of use. So just make sure you choose which one you need. Ask online. But most of our stuff is terms of service, because it's not according to our stuff, we don't need the terms of use. But you may, right? So this one's going to be called terms of service / terms. Okay, when I update that, then I can go ahead and edit that and then publish that page. Okay, and then all I need to do is go into the footer and then link to all of those. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to say, oh, crap. Hold on. Close the wrong tab. So I've got, who am I? Who am I? Okay, hold on. Let me just edit this. And I'm going to go to SEO, and this one is called the privacy policy. Save. Privacy policy. And then I'm going to go into the other one. I'm just doing this so you can quickly see. SEO, terms of service. So now this should say privacy policy, and this should now say terms of service. Oh, no, I didn't do that. Oh, that's the wrong one. Terms of service. Here we go. Okay, so I've got privacy policy and terms of service. Now, what I have in here are different sections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-add a header. Actually, I can build that from scratch. Hold on. I do not like this template. Folks, don't choose this template. Oh my gosh. Okay. Sorry, let me rewind this storyline here a bit. I'm just going to create something from scratch just to show you. Because they were using a lot of, they were editing a lot of the margins so that things can overlap. I do not want anybody here to do those types of things. So I'm just going to create something from scratch. Everybody knows typically every website has a header, some content, and then footer, right? So if I do one section to be the header, I can add another section to be the content or the body, and then I can add another section to be the footer. All right, so what I did here was I clicked on the plus sign, and all of these are different options in your WYSIWYG editor. When I say WYSIWYG, it stands for what you see is what you get. All right, so I can add sections. I can add rows to each of these. You can see add row, add row. I can just drag that in. And then I can add what was called elements. This is the most important stuff for you to see and realize, is that when you're editing content or adding content, it's the elements that you're going to be utilizing to add into each and every single one of your pages. All right, so if I go and say this element, this is going to be the header, I'm going to add, I can add a main menu, or I can search for it here, menu. All right, and I can do that. And then this footer, I can add a 2-column footer. This one I can put in logo. And then this side I can put in some text. Right, so now I've got my green sections. I've got my blue columns. And then between those two, I actually have a purple. Sorry, inside the blue, I have a purple. So it's always nested like that. You've got your sections, which are always like rows. Then you've got something that's right in there, and that's your columns, the blue. And then you have the actual columns themselves inside of the blue, and those are the purple. Because technically speaking, you can see here, green, big section, it's a wide section. The blue inner section, which is just one 2-column row. This is called a row. And then in that row, you have 2 columns, 2 purple columns. So if I ever wanted to edit a column or a row, I can click on it. So you can see whenever I click on something, so if I wanted to edit this lower section, I can click on the green and I can say, turn the background black. And let's say on this row, I didn't want it to be as wide. I can make it less, or I can change the background on that to gray. And then let's say this column, this right column, I can also change this right column and turn that to yellow. So can you see now how things are nesting inside of each other? So you're going to look at different web pages. Like let's say, for example, I go to my personal web page here. You can see here that I've got this orange section here, which is one section. And then I have one row. And then I only have one column. You see, everything's centered. There's nothing to the right of it or to the left of it. It's just one column. But when now each of these sections this is a section, so this would have been green. And then the blue would have been one row. And then the purple would have been this column and this column. So it would have been a 2-column row with 2 columns. Can anybody tell me how this one might be structured? So this actually is this white section here. Yeah. So how many sections is it? Green. It will be one section, yeah? Okay, then how many rows are in this section?
3 or 2.
All right. The answer is 2. Good job. Because this is a row and this is a row in one section. But you can see here that the top row is 1 column. But this bottom row here is actually 2 columns. So when you're starting to design things, you can say, ooh, I want 2 columns, or 1 column, or 3 columns, right? So for example, can anybody tell me how this is structured? How many sections do I have? It's still one section, one big section, right? This kind of bluey color. It's one section. How many rows do I have? I have 1 row, 2 rows. But in this bottom row, I have three columns. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so as you start to look at different websites and different designs, you'll start to see how things are structured in sections, rows, and columns. It's always that nesting. Sections first, rows next, columns next. This bottom footer area, can anybody tell me how many? It's one section, right? This whole gray area. But from that, can anybody tell me how many rows there are? 2 rows. Row 1 and row 2. But row 1 is 2 column. And row 2 is 1 column. All right, so that is just to give you a visualization of how things are being designed. So whole health. So this is one of our colleagues' websites that we designed. So this is a section up here. And this is another section over here. In this section, though, it's only got 1 row, but it's got 2 columns. This is a row. This is a row with 2 columns. This is a row with 1 column. This is a row with 2 columns. But all of these are in the same section. This is all the same section. Okay, so I mentioned this because I want you to start to understand when you're designing your pages and content, this is typically what is happening. Now, having said that, the majority of you here are actually paying for the design services. So our team will be developing your funnels for you from the template that you chose. However, what's not included there is a website. Now, do you have to have a website? The answer is no, you don't. Brett and I have a multi-6-figure business, and we do not have a website. We have landing pages. So Stacy's, this is her website, wholehealthmatters.ca. But this is actually her signature program offer. And what's the only call to action on here? Book a call. And that goes to her Practice Better. Her secondary call to action is her lead magnet. Get her free IBS journal. Download now is the form. Okay, so do you have to have a website? You don't have to. That's okay if you don't. We could completely make your signature program offer your website landing. And then when you want to create a separate website, you can totally do that. Right now, you do need to decide, though, where that domain is. And this is a topic of another conversation. But, when you change domains separately, like if you're like, oh, my wholehealthmatters.ca is on Evolve, and then later on you say, I want to move to WordPress. Right now we're talking something different, right? Because I have to do a bunch of changes on the back end for your domains, right? So That's a different conversation. But anyway, back to the editor here. You can see that my footer now has this text and an image placeholder. So now, remember I said if you click on any of the boxes, you can edit the box or whatever you've selected. You have general, styles, and other features that are eligible or relevant to this background section. So if I wanted to, I could pick an image, right? I can upload an image. I don't think I have any images here. Oh yeah, I do. All right, I can upload an image and use this AI background. Boom, there it is. I can say, is it parallax or is it centered? Ooh, okay, I like that. Versus just a color, right? Or I wanted to put a video in the background. I could do that as well. So that's because I selected this box. Now, if I go in a little bit further and I selected that blue row, this now changes the row. So that's why I edited the background color. Or, hey, I wanted it to be an image. All right, full center, boom. So I know I might be going a little slow. I just want to make sure that people understand all of this stuff. And then the image. Normally you'd put a logo here, but I don't think I have any logos. Oh, there it is, logo. All right. So now that's a pretty darn big logo. I'm going to remove this background image from this row because it's just too distracting. That logo looks a little bit big. So let me click on the element. When I click on the logo, all of this stuff on the right side shifts and changes. So now I can change the properties of the logo itself. So the first thing is, I'm going to change this, right? So this is, whatever my business is called, XYZ Corp. Okay, so the alt text for SEO is basically for search engine optimization, but also for screen readers. I can change the size and dimensions of this image. I'm going to give you a little tip. When you are editing image sizes, don't edit the height, because I could completely warp this. Can everybody see the ratio of this is about two wide by 1 high? But I could say, yeah, make this 200 wide, but make it 10 tall. It warps it. Please don't warp it, especially if it's a photograph. So don't mess with the height, just mess with the width of the image. Oops. Great, now I've permanently messed it up. All right, so let me just do that. Image. Oh, by the way, if you do make a mistake, you can always go back up here. So let's say oh, darn it, that's the wrong one. Let's go back. So you always have that option. Now, if you hit save, I don't think you can change that. Let's see. Save. Oh, fudge, I made a mistake. Back. Oh, you can do that. Okay, good. All right. So now that is there. All right. So, excuse me again for the ugly factor. It was just meant for sample purposes there. All right. So now this is the footer. So this is where you're going to put your privacy policy, your terms of service. Structure-wise, this is what you say. You say copyright, and then you have a year, 2025. Now, what's nice about this, I'll make this bigger. This is even small for me. What's nice about this is you can say 2025, but use variable data. So you see here, it says custom values. Right now, I can search year, right now year. It now changes that to right _now dot year. So now what it does is when it loads this page, whatever the current year is, that will say the year, because your copyright line should always be that, right? So this is always going to say copyright year, all rights reserved. Oh, sorry. Copyright year, and then who it's copyright, who owns the copyright. Okay, so it could be copyright Tanya Bush. Or it could be XYZ Corp if it's my company. And then all rights reserved. Okay, that's the minimum that you need for this. Always have those and put all rights reserved in caps. Now I can hit enter and I can say privacy policy dash terms of service. So I'm going to go to the privacy policy. I'm going to select the entire URL and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to double click on the word privacy policy. And I could change the color of it. I could do all these different things. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to this button and I'm going to add a URL. And I'm going to paste. Boom. I'm going to leave it in the current window. And that's that. I'm going to do the exact same thing for the terms of service. Okay, and then I'm going to hit save. Now, what happens is those two links are available. So if I go into here, there it is. I can go privacy policy and then boom, it goes to the other page. Now I can also edit some of the content here. So with this specific text element, you'll see here color. So yes, I can change the custom font. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. I could do all these things, right? I could change, is it bold? Is it thin? Is it whatever? Is it super bold? You can do all of the different things. The line height, you see the difference between these two lines? You can increase the line height. So there's huge gaps in between there. Usually you don't go more than 1.3 for line height. All these different things. Now, this element as well could change colors. So you can say the background for this is red. Or when it says color by itself, it actually means the font color. So if I wanted this font color because whatever, I have issues, I'm choosing red font. But you'll see those two links here, they didn't change colors. Why? Because these are link text color and I selected blue. So let's say that these are actually going to be green. Okay, now I'm just going to change this because this is hurting my eyes. Let's say my color scheme is green as my certain colors, like secondary color or primary color, it's green. Now, this is a bad example because obviously you cannot see this there. So maybe I'm going to turn it back to red. All right, or maybe I'm just going to leave all my links as black. Okay. Or let's say, for example, I'm going to change the background color from this gray. Let's see, it's transparent. Ah, wow, Daniel, this is no good. Nobody can see anything. Okay, click on the text element. Change your font color to what? White. Change your link text color to white. Now everything's there. Now it's visible again. Okay, so you can do all of the different things with this. Now if I hit save, wait 2 to 3 seconds, preview it, and now it's all there. And these are the links. Okay, so I now created that. Your header, you can do the exact same type of stuff here. This is the menu. You edit your menu items through here. You can add your business logo, change your business name. You know, those are all options in here. There's many different ways to feed this cat with regards to the menu. But like, so for example, if I didn't want the business name up there, I just want a logo and the menu. This is super simple that way. Now the question though is, well, Daniel, if I create new pages, do I have to keep adding another section for the header, another element? Blah, blah, blah? No, what we're going to do is we're going to save these items as global or universal elements. Okay, so the footer, I'm going to select on this green box, and you'll see here at the left side, there's a little, it's really funny. Most of us here actually knows what a disk is. Like a floppy disk. We still use that as the save icon, which is very interesting because people less than 30 years of age have no clue what this means. But anyway, that means save. Now I can call this a global footer. So this footer I want on every page, landing page, web page, everything. So I can create that and save it as a universal section. Global section just means it's only for websites. It's not going to be showing under the funnels, but I want it to show up at funnels and websites. So I'm going to choose universal sections, and I'm going to call it I'm going to actually label it universal footer. And what you're going to notice is now this is purple. That means this is a saved element that can be used in other locations. The exact same thing I would do for the header. So let's change this logo. Oh, I did the wrong one. Menu. Okay, so I can do the exact same thing with the header. You see that it is green because it's not saved as a global element. So select the green, go all the way to the top or the left side, save it, and call it universal header. And I can save it to make it, if I want to make it available for funnels, but really we don't really need to because you're never going to use this header in funnels. But now I save that. And there you go. All right. You could do this with any section that you have. You can, in fact, I think, yeah, you can only do it for whole sections. So for example, if I had a section, so remember this site here, this is one section. So this is one section. This is a 1-column row. And this is a 6 or 7-column row at the bottom with the icons. Okay. But what I did was this whole gray section, I saved that as a global section because it's also on some of my other pages. So that way I don't have to keep recreating this section with 1-row column, 7-row column, add image, add image, add image, add image. Okay, so now I've got saved footer and saved header. Now, just for giggles, I'm going to put in home page header. Okay, and then I'm going to add paragraph information here. All right, so that's there. So now when I view this page, oh, by the way, I changed something that was a global section. I edited something in one of the universal sections. It's actually saying, hey, yo, by the way, you just changed something that's going to affect every page that has this global section. Are you sure you want to do that? And you're like, oh, shoot, I didn't want to change anything. Click cancel. Okay, and then you got to go figure out what you changed. But if I know that I purposely wanted to change the footer or whatever it was, go ahead and hit save, and it finishes the save. All right, so when I go here, wait 3 to 5 seconds, refresh. This is the homepage header with the garbage text that I just put there. Now, I want you to do your best to forget about all these other pages from the template that I created. I just want you to pretend there's this one page that I had done. If you know next you have to create additional pages, the easiest is to just clone it, just like I showed you before. But I want to show you one quick thing about the universal headers and footers. So I'm just going to add a blank page. So this one's going to be called About Moi. Okay, so this one is going to be a blank page. Why? Because again, I just want to show you those universal headers and footers. So this is completely a blank slate. Well, I can go to Saved Sections, Universal Sections, and there's the header and the footer that I was talking about. So I simply drag this in, boom, drag that in, boom. If I end up changing anything here, it's going to reflect on every other page that I'm editing because it's a purple universal section. Now I need to still add the middle section here. So I'm going to click on plus, sections, and I can drag it to the bottom, to the top, whatever. I'm going to drag it in the middle. And then let's say that I did this. Okay, so I'm going to say add a new row, 1 column, add a new element. Headline, text line, doesn't really matter. They're all pretty much the same. Paste. All right. Okay, that's now making sense. I'm going to go to the background of the main section. I'm going to turn it gray. And then I'm going to add, what is it? A 7-column section underneath, a 7-column row underneath this header here. So I'm going to call row. Oh, I only have 6. Well, what do I do, Daniel? Okay, I'm going to go drag that in underneath trusted by these. I know that I'm going to add an image. And let's go to that little tiny logo. Let's add that one. Okay. And I'm going to make it smaller. So I'm only going to make it 150 wide. No, maybe even smaller, 75 wide. All right, so I can go here and I can duplicate it. And duplicate it. But let's just say I have 7 of those logos. But I only was able to do a 6 column. Right? Because remember this part here? Rows, I was only able to do 6 columns. Well, what I can do is I can duplicate a column. So just like this area, if I wanted to duplicate it, I can go ahead and click on this little box. It looks like 2 squares. I can duplicate it. I can delete it. I can drag it. All of these little elements mean something. But I can do the same for the duplication of the row as well. So if I wanted two rows of the 6, I can hit duplicate and boom, it duplicates like that. Or I can delete that. But if I want to add a 7th column, I can go and hover to the purple part and duplicate the column, and it adds a 7th. Okay, so there's all these little cool little features, tips, and tricks on how to add elements there. But now all of a sudden you can see here, aside from the fact that I'm just using test logos, I've now recreated this section. And I can go ahead and create more, create another section, create maybe a 2-column row, right? This one is going to be an image. Then a header. Don't text and dry, right? If I wanted to easily, I could just say plus. The same box opens up. Another subline. Seriously, it's not good. I can go and add another little plus and add the text. And then, okay, so I can do that. And then every time I click on an element, I can edit the features of the element. I can say styles, everything's left. Right? I can go back here. I can change the line height if I wanted to. I can edit, add spaces between the paragraphs. I can also, for example, you know what? That seriously, it's not good, and this text, it's too close. So I can click on the element for seriously, it's not good, orange. I can go to styles, and you'll always see this box here. It's called margin and padding. A margin is anything outside of the orange box. Padding is what's inside of the orange box. Okay, so you can see here, do you see the orange box between don't text and drive and seriously it's not good? You see how they're actually touching each other? Let's say I wanted to add a little bit of a gap. So I can go to don't text and drive, and I can either add a gap between the orange line of the bottom of the orange line of don't text and drive, or I can add a margin which is outside of that orange line. But you'll see here, you see how I can actually overlap them? This is just for like, oh, I'm doing cool visual things, but it can mess you up because remember, if I do this, I can't edit it's hard for me to click on seriously, it's not good because it's in a different layer, all right? So it's more for visual things by doing the negative spacing. But for me, seriously, it's not good. And this text down here, that is to me visually too close. So I'm actually going to add a margin. And that's it. Now, if I wanted, seriously, it's not good to be all a specific color, I'm going to select the orange box and I'm going to change color and change it to red. But if I wanted only one word of that, right, to be a specific color, I'm just going to undo that. I would go into the box and I would see if I can select the word. And then you can change just that. So there's different ways of making those edits. Okay. So, once you've done that, now all of a sudden you can see here all of your stuff is now saved. Now there was a box that just showed up and it's called SEO metadata. On every single page, you must edit this SEO metadata. So go to your content, and this one's called home, right? Or about me, which is this page that I created. Add a description. This is the stuff that's going to show up on Google. If you want to navigate between the editing of the pages, you can just click on here. Pages, the second icon. And this was about me and test home. I can click on test home. It just takes me directly there. And I don't have to go back. I don't have to click on back. Wait for this. Scroll down. Click here. I don't have to do that. I can just do it just quickly and simply by changing the pages.